I blame that squarely on their name. The worst brand name of all time. Actually, maybe second worst. But do you know what
I was gonna say
BMC
you gotta
stands
tell me what
for?
it stands
I believe it's it's bicycle making company. Hold on. All right, welcome back to the BTC podcast, bringing you the latest updates in cycling of this week and our unsolicited opinions. Jake Myers here with Aaron. Aaron, we finally got racing back. Talk to us about the first UCI or pro race of the year.
Yeah, so Tour Down Under started, I guess, a few days ago. When we're recording this, I think stage one is starting tonight by American time. At 7:30, I think it's on. Not by any means the most exciting race ever, but I don't know. For me, I'm a nerd. I like to watch any racing I can, so I'm pretty excited to have
Anybody,
something to do.
anybody who has made it to this podcast probably wants to watch it too.
We realized we had somehow run out of the oversaturated market of cycling YouTube videos and podcasts, so we had to make our own. So it'd be nice to have some live action to watch again.
Still not going to watch this. No, but catch us up on the start list.
Yeah. So there was a crit. I'm pulling up the start list now, but there was a crit that it's not even a technical stage of the race, but there was a crit a few days ago that I guess Jonathan Norvez won from the break, almost got caught at the end, but he ended up pulling out the win from the breakaway.
Ineos guy, right?
Yeah, from Ineos. I don't think that means anything in terms of overall or even like stage wins or anything. I think that's more of like a exhibition, sort of like they do after the Tour de France and other big stage races. Um, but big names, Caleb Ewan's there. Hoping I think to have a little bit better year than last year. Simon Yates will be there. That's from Team Jayco. Alaphilippe, I'm excited to see how he'll do. I think he's hopefully on a better year than last year.
Did you see that clip of him training
Yeah,
in
yeah.
700-watt intervals sitting down? Maybe not impressive to other people, but to me, it
looks super easy when he does it. Binyam Girmay is gonna be there. Just reading through Derek Gee. He was the guy that kind of like he came onto the scene, I think at the tour last year.
The breakaways.
Yeah, big time breakaway guy. Filippo Ganna, Ben Swift, they're for Ineos along with Norvez. They seem to have a lot of people there that are Viviani will be their sprinter, it looks like. Unless they have Ghana go for the sprints again. Other big names.
Shouldn't be many.
Not many others.
Too early in the season.
Team Visma, not Jumbo Visma anymore. Visma Lisa Bike has Robert Hessink, Cone Bowman. Trek's got Quinn Simmons, Juan Pedro Lopez. Australia's got Michael Storr, kind of that pure climber, and that's the Australian national team.
Are they racing as the Australian national?
Yeah, they always have one team. I don't know exactly how you get on it. I guess if your team isn't signed up for it, you can join through the Australian national team. I know there's not a ton of climbing. I know there's that one Wollonga Hill. That'll probably make the difference for the GC. But I imagine it's going to be a lot of Caleb Ewan or Viviani going for sprint points. And then for GC, I mean, Simon Yates, Alaphilippe. I want to say that I can't find him on the list, but I want to say Bakamolama was.
Yes, he did. He tried to attack
team?
right from the. No, he's
Still on Trek.
Yeah.
Oh, here he is. Here he is. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Do the guys who are on the start list for Tour Down Under, does that mean they don't have big responsibilities for their teams later on in the year? Um, or is it just random? Some guys hold form longer than others. Like I worry that maybe this is the sign of Alaphilippe going away from being uh Quick Step's big guy to being a guy that they throw into some of the smaller races to try to get some results.
Maybe, but I don't think he has to necessarily come to this race in form either. You have to get a certain number of race days. You sign up for, each year for the team. And then there's like the UCI points. So maybe they're assuming he can get some early.
Yeah.
For sure, he's not going to be, he's not going to be the guy in any kind of racing because I think Remco is better than him at everything now. But I think he's still going to get some chances. One notable exclusion, if you haven't heard, is Rohan Denny's. I don't know too much about it, but did you hear about this?
No.
Oh, he hit his wife with his car and she died in the hospital.
Really?
And there was, yeah, I don't know, like
Any more
the
detail?
latest was that, yeah, she was climbing under the hood. There was an argument, and
Wow.
I don't think it's worth jumping to any conclusions. But yeah, he's Australian. He was gonna be there for Visma Lisa bike. So lost for the team, but more importantly, just actual stuff going on. So
Yeah, wow.
yeah, if you're wondering why he's not there, that would be, whatever's going on with that investigation. So yeah, Tour Down Under, a couple big names. Like Aaron said, it's something to watch. It's something either if you can get, what was it on Peacock?
Yeah,
Pull it up.
yeah. Just got Peacock because the NFL game though streaming only on Peacock, so looks like I got something to watch tonight.
For 1 minute. But you can watch the YouTube highlights, whatever. But yeah, racing's back, so we're pretty fired up about that. And speaking of racing, this year has been, I'm sure every podcast that has anything to do with cycling is talking about the cycling industry and what it looked like 2, 3 years ago and what it's looking like now, which is something very different. We're seeing a lot of changes in the pro peloton as well as domestic pros. What did you notice? Did you notice any of the big teams running different gear?
You talking about World Tour teams?
Yeah, let's start with World Tour and trickle our way down.
I mean, you're probably more the gear guy than I am.
Yeah, I'm seeing if you're paying attention.
Let's see. I think Trek's still gonna be riding Treks. I don't know. I don't follow enough of the I know like Groupama and Agi, Dozer. They seem to switch around bikes a lot. But I have a hard time following. You might do a better job of filling us in.
So Groupama actually had been with Lapierre since 2002.
Okay.
Groupama FDJ is a French team, and Lapierre is a French brand. I've never ridden a Lapierre bike. They're really light, apparently, but as far as aerodynamics, just from the naked eye, which means nothing, by the way, they didn't seem to be the most elite bike frame. I don't know that would ever make a big difference, but probably it looks like due to just financial situation of Lapierre being a smaller brand, being a French brand, it was kind of surprising to see the switch, but I think just money issues caused this. Groupama switched to Villiers, which is an Italian brand. So kind of wild. The French brands take a lot of pride, in being French teams, and now they're riding Italian bikes. They're really, really cool.
So now that's two teams with Willier bikes now, huh?
And both of them look good. This one is like a white or silver with like purple. I don't think it was flowers or flames, but it's just like purple, I don't know, swirls. It looked cool. Whatever it is, it looked pretty cool. But that was one that people said they were pretty surprised about. As far as, who else did you mention?
So Agi, AG2R, Agi Dozer. We're on BMC. I don't even know this bike brand that they're switching to. Finn
It's if you are in the market for a new bike, I would say like hold off a little bit because I think everything is going to keep dropping. But Van Rissel has got pretty much the general geometry of the giant of the Specialized, everything, just the dropped seat stays. If you didn't have paint on it, it would look probably a lot like the Merida or the Specialized. But it's the bike they are using, I think, is around 7 or 8 grand.
which is
Um,
fairly cheap compared to
comparatively,
the
yeah,
World
like
Tour
half.
bikes. Yeah.
So if you're in the market for a new road bike, Van Rissel makes some pretty cool stuff. I don't have any experience riding one, but it's a good price point. I believe it's the lowest starting price point of any World Tour bike.
So that leaves BMC not representing anybody. Am I wrong in
I
at least of the big teams?
think somebody has BMC.
Because I
I'd
feel
have to
like
look that up.
their road machine, whatever it is, I feel like that's one that at least within our community we hear a lot about and we hear good things about.
Yeah, now you got me thinking. I'm not sure if anybody is riding BMC now. Probably in the pro Peloton.
Yeah, there'd be continental teams, I'm sure, that have it. I don't follow enough to know what those continental teams are or what they ride.
I don't know if you might be right. I blame that squarely on their name. The worst brand name of all time. Actually, maybe second worst. But do you know what
I was gonna
BMC
say you gotta
stands
tell me what it
for?
stands
I
for.
believe it's Bicycle Making Company. Hold on. What does BMC stand for? Um, cycling. It's shoot, bicycle
Oh my
manufacturer. Okay, it's a little bit better, but bicycle manufacturing company. Yeah, not a ton of creativity. Some people really liked them. I honestly wasn't a fan of the appearance. That's to say nothing about their bikes, but somebody somebody was riding them because I remember seeing it in the background of the new Factor bike. Somebody released the new. Did you hear about the release of the new
um,
Factor Austria Vam?
did something happen with the release?
It wasn't, so it's not out yet.
Uh-huh.
They redesigned it like Aero, everything. One of the pros getting ready for it was either the Tour Down Under or yeah, it must have been the Tour Down Under. Uh, gave his bike to this local guy who waxes chains, and the guy didn't know. So the guy posted a picture of the chain all waxed up of this new
And that was
Austro
how that
van,
was
and
released.
it blew up. And
So that would have been Israel Premier Tech.
And people tried to like call this guy out, and he just like kept retweeting it, so he's keep getting more and more, which is pretty cool. For but he, I mean, he does some of the pros chain waxing, so yeah, good for him. He
Wow.
got some attention there, but yeah, there's a new Ostro van, but they
Okay.
didn't switch up. I'm sure somebody's on BMC. I'll have to look that up later, but all road bikes kind of look the same. Um, maybe it's not any more exciting to switch to gravel, but let's switch to domestic gravel. That's been kind of fun for me to try to track down who's riding what this year because, like we said, the industry is struggling. There was a bike boom, and now there's just people who were into it a couple years ago. It's kind of faded, and there's a lot of extra product and especially with these big companies. So big companies are starting to drop people, and a lot of even the big names domestically in the US are having to find new sponsors. So you pointed out a couple to me this week. You found some
Yeah.
interesting ones.
Well, yeah, and to go off that, it seems like a lot of bike companies knowing that they're having to downsize are sort of consolidating and um focusing on their big money earners. So the some of like the cool guys in gravel, I guess you'd call them, do like an ironic spirit tour at the start of each season. They go to Tucson, Arizona, and do like a 5 or 4 or 5 or 6 day just like base training thing in search of the spirit of gravel.
Is that what it is?
And I think to poke
Oh.
fun at some of the maybe older school gravel guys that harp on that spirit of gravel. We'll leave our own spirit of gravel opinions out of it, but So these guys like Keegan and Russell, I think, kind of started that.
I'm gonna
There
ask you
was
about your Spirit of Gravel in a new podcast.
So Kerry Werner has kind of joined in with them. He'll go there. Cody Cup, is that his
Yeah,
name?
Cody Cup was there.
Um,
Is this the first time Kerry Warner did it?
no, he did it last
Okay.
year too. He did it right before he did the Lifetime Grand Prix last year.
Okay.
And I was wondering if he was going to do it this year again because he didn't even get into the Lifetime Grand Prix this year. So I'm curious, speaking of Kerry Werner, to see what he ends up racing this year. If he's going to do gravel, go back to cyclocross, do a mix. Personally, I want to see him mountain bike more. I've heard and seen a few things. I like he's a pretty fast mountain biker. But anyway, so Kerry's Instagram reels and posts, he was showing some of the progress throughout the desert, and in one of the clips it showed Russell on a trek, and I don't know if that was an accident or not, but it was almost the next day. I think you sent me the clip where Russell Finsterwald announced that he was going to be riding treks this year. Just kind of a big switch. He was on Specialized,
Yeah.
and he was
ultimate slap in the face.
yeah, probably the two most competitive with each other bike brands, I would guess.
In the US for sure.
He had just left that, so Sophia, him, Howard Grotz were on that like Specialized team. I forget the name of the official name of it, but he had just left that team. I don't know if that was Specialized downsizing more. I have a hard time seeing them getting rid of Russell.
Really?
I would imagine he'd probably have opted out
Interesting.
over them. I don't know.
I figured they must have dropped him because he didn't get, like, they were banking on him. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. You just have to imagine he's probably like the third or fourth biggest name in gravel. But I mean, Specialized has been making some big decisions. So, yeah. So Russell to Trek.
Which Trek had no
Trek's got no
representation
one.
in gravel. The old world tour guy with the long hair. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, Lord.
He finished last in the Grand Prix the last year he did it. Ray, Keel's
Keelrainen.
Keel
Yeah.
because he
Yeah.
just like I think he just liked riding his bike. Like
Mhm.
I that dude's awesome. But Trek had no representation in like
Mhm.
competitive, at least in the male ranks.
So we're speculating here. Are we going into speculations now or doing?
Oh heck yeah.
Okay, so Kerry Werner, speaking of him, um, on his Instagram, no longer has Kona listed in his bio. You know, when you go to Instagram bios, he doesn't have Kona there. He's got his Ride Shimano bike flights, but no longer has Kona. And he added a story of this custom painted Trek bike, but it wasn't a Trek post. It was a Black Magic Paint post, and it was a TT bike, which I don't think we're ever going to see Kerry Warner do a time trial.
Is it not a Trek post?
It's not a Trek post. It's Black Magic Paint. So I don't know if he's now going to be sponsored by this Black Magic Paint.
Are you sure that's not what they just called their Trek does a lot of paint?
It could be,
schemes. I think it's their Project One.
It would. You were saying it would seem silly for him to post a Trek if he's not switching to Trek. So that would be cool, and that I don't know if that would mean him and Finsterwald are teammates, if they what are gravel teams, I guess. But that would be a big move, I think, for him. And
Gary would be a good lead out guy if they got it. I mean, he's probably still going to do some of those
cyclocross or gravel,
the gravel races,
BWRs, and the Mid South. That one he podiumed last year, actually.
And Dylan Johnson's doing Mid South.
Okay,
I think Scott McGill is going to do it.
Is he really?
I think so.
So Scott McGill just joined Project Echelon, and their big thing is they're like treating some of these gravel races as their own classics. They're calling it the classics, so they're gonna.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I'm actually like pretty intrigued to see. Like that's gonna be a team, and I'm imagining they're gonna be working together. Like how would a team not in the Grand Prix fare working together against like Keegan going solo or Russell going solo. It'd be kind of cool to see Project Echelon pull out a win or two just because they have team tactics to
Oh,
play.
Project Echelon is going at
They're going
Oh.
allegedly sending people, treating them as classics. So I don't know why they wouldn't plan on
Oh.
working as a team.
I thought you were saying just the Bonk Bros.
No, 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 no.
Oh,
Project
okay.
Echelon is sending riders to Unbound. Um, I think Mid South. There's a couple races that they're planning on going to with some riders, and I mean they got strong riders.
Hmm.
It'd be kind of cool to see them work team tactics in a gravel race and see how like how that changes the dynamic of the race.
That's wild. Yeah. I I don't know. I'm for me, I'm still stuck on Russell Finsterwald going to Trek. Like I think it was a good move for Trek. I don't know that they have dropped any big teams or sponsors. Specialized has dropped a bunch. They dropped Legion. Now I don't know how much of that is like there was negative press versus how I mean it's got to be partly that they're just struggling. My solution would be stop charging $2,000 extra for every one of your bikes and maybe you'll start catching up. But like I don't really feel bad for him. But dropping some names and then dropping Legion. What's Legion gonna ride next year? I think
I
they're riding
something
their old Specialized
I
stuff, so
think
that would be
something
the
yeah.
perfect move for Specialized. Don't
Something
pay
weird
them.
is happening with Legion though, I think, because Rafa and Specialized dropped them. And
Oh,
they're
Rafa did
controversial.
too.
Rafa did too. Um, Freddie Ovett had left, and like suddenly everyone else is jumping, and a lot of them are going to Miami Blazers, which is still like a under the Legion umbrella, I think. I'm like wondering if they got too much bad PR and they're just trying to like
Hmm.
shift everything over to Miami,
Oh
hope no
yeah.
one will notice, and then like have their new Legion just be the Miami Blazers.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, something weird's going on there because if the biggest crit racing team in America can't hold their sponsor, you were saying this, like who can, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Lance
But
Haydet left, and on the other hand, I saw that they're gonna post their roster today
okay.
for Legion, so they're still trying to do something. But yeah, maybe allocating resources to have
Hmm.
the best chance of success. But
So Lance is going private, right?
privateer, yeah.
Has he announced what he's riding?
No, I saw he has his helmet has a gosh, we spend way too much time looking at I didn't even know he had like a competitive cyclist sticker on his helmet,
Okay.
but still riding his Legion bikes, like the specialized bikes, and it was a specialized helmet. So I assume he's probably, I mean, all this stuff is
Still
really
cyclist.
new. I
Yeah.
assume he's
Yeah.
just gonna use that and get a
Hmm.
couple other sponsors. Speaking of sponsors, if you were a privateer, and let's say you were a marketable. Oh wait, we got one more one to discuss. Dylan Johnson, what is he going to be riding?
I
I saw that the Nero podcast, and they're like, "What's Dylan Johnson riding?" And I was like, "Why are they freaking out?" And then I was like, "Okay, I'm the
need to
same way. I want to know." Yeah,
know. Oh man. So it's weird. I feel like all we've heard from him all season is how fast he thinks the factor bikes are. Um, but it seems like he's not going to be on a factor, right? Like from what I've
he's
heard,
not.
it
I can
seems like
confirm
that's
it's not a
okay.
factor because I'll tell you why in a sec. But
Um, which is weird because he has like he's notorious for being the guy that's like, I want to be on the fastest thing. I don't care if it's less money. Like he's turned down sponsors because he doesn't think they are fast before. And he doesn't have a tire sponsor because he wants to be able to switch to different tires depending on the race, to what's fastest. So it's weird. Like I would think if he thought factors were the fastest, he would find a way to ride a factor, and maybe it's just not in the cards for him. Maybe factors like we can't sponsor anymore. But talk about a marketable guy. He's maybe not the fastest guy in gravel, but
one of the most
one
well
of the
known.
most noteworthy. Yeah, one of the
Mhm.
most marketable. Like when he says something,
People
he could
listen.
convince me to ride an iron bike. I would do it.
You do
Um,
ride an iron bike.
um, but
Okay, so here's how I know why it's not
okay,
a
tell me.
factor. I guess it's not 100% because there's guys who will still use a conventional stem even when the company offers a bar stem. But Factor offers a bar stem up to 140 and as skinny as 36, which is what he said he runs. He said that the company that's sponsoring him already sent him a stem, especially with like the marketability he has. If your company makes a bar stem, you're sending him a bar stem if you have one. So it's a brand that's not running a bar stem. It doesn't narrow it down that much, but that gets rid of Canyon and Factor for me, which I had wondered about Canyon. What I have been running through is I don't think it'll be Specialized because he's said a few things about Specialized not being aerodynamic, and I don't think he would say that if they were going to send him a bike. But Specialized, the Crux runs a conventional stem. Um, the Checkpoint actually runs a conventional stem. Trek does have a bar stem, but they don't sell it with they don't sell the Checkpoint gravel bike with the bar stem. You had mentioned something about felt a while
I
back.
had heard like weird like hintings at felt like his podcast. People were like dropping like little hints, and like I had interpreted it as he's joining Felt. The weird thing about Felt is they don't even have a mountain bike, right?
I
Maybe
don't,
they partner with a
yeah, I
company
don't
that
know.
does.
They have a gravel bike, but
They do have a gravel bike, and it would be fast, I'm sure. I'm
mhm.
sure they would make an aero one. That seems to be what like the most I've heard about a company is Felt. It's just a weird one. But that's my guess. If you had to gun to my head right now, I'm saying he's going to be on a Felt this year.
I forget what I had come up. I was playing around with different brands. Pivot came to mind. Like they would be one that definitely would not have a bar stem,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if that brand would be that intriguing to him. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it'll be as
The
arrow as the Factor because
you've kind of talked about how like the 3T or the Lauf brands are like his surly style of like the gravel to mountain bike thing.
mhm.
And I think that's an interesting like theory too. Like maybe one of those bikes that like almost could be that drop bar mountain bike that he's been trying to build himself.
The Lauf, yeah, I want a Lauf. He brought it up and I looked him up. You can run a 29 2.2 mountain bike tire. They have clearance for
Wow.
that. The geometry is like really slack in the front, but short chain stays in the back. So it's supposed to be less twitchy, but still aggressive. And just their whole mantra is like we don't care what convention is, like we're making the fastest bike, which aligns with his
Very
very
much.
well. Like
Yeah.
if it, yeah, same as you. If you said if I had to pick right now, I would say Lauf would be his best fit. I don't know if
Hmm.
that'll be with a ride, but they only make one by drivetrains, and same deal with mountain bikes. I don't know, so I think
Yeah.
it's still a pretty big brand,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Um, well, and for Felt, I've heard they don't even fit 47 Pathfinders, which is sort of
oh
become his
yeah,
bread and
the
butter, which he always chops off the what are those called? The
knobbies.
knobs on them anyway, so maybe they'll fit without the knobs on. Um, but yeah, that's been a long awaited announcement that he said he's waiting to get his bikes before he announces. Bikes, I don't know. I'm sure he
I
gets bikes.
Yeah, I think it'd be tough to not ride like at least the Factor road bike if you got a new one. Like it'd be tough to find. I don't know. I mean, I guess
Hmm.
if I'm getting paid, I'll ride whatever they tell me to. But yeah, no, I'm intrigued by that too. I'm curious. I'm hoping they send a bike. But you said you thought it was him doing it, just waiting for all the buzz of the new bikes to get by and then he would release it. Maybe the brand is doing that. Either way, I think it's in the benefit of the brand and him that it's taking so long
Hmm. Hmm.
to be released. I think whether intentional or not, it was a good call.
What do you make of, I know not like a Grand Prix athlete or a huge name, but Drew Dillman signed with a state bicycle company, a like notorious fixie brand. What do you think of that?
I like the idea. I mean, you got like if you're trying to turn this into a profession, you've got to find somebody who's going to pay you, somebody who's gonna, see you as a valuable asset. I think it's unfortunate that he isn't more marketable at this point because I think he's a really strong rider, like in all aspects. I think like he's taken all this right steps to potentially be a big marketable or bigger marketable athlete in the next couple of years. Like I think he has that kind of that timeline or outline kind of drawn out. I'm intrigued to see how it goes. Yeah, state bicycles. So their big thing now, their new thing is they offer a carbon gravel bike for under $2,000. And like that is
That's
wild
yeah,
for
pretty impressive.
bicycling standards. But I looked it up. They make their own drivetrains. It's a
Hmm.
state bicycle drivetrain, and there were only a couple reviews on it. There was a problem with the chain for somebody, but it was a mechanic, and they said they replaced the master link and then didn't have any issues after that. I'm guessing his like so here's
So you're saying like the customer service will be tough to like if something goes wrong, it's gonna be tough to.
no. I was saying with that just not the customer service, but just it's not a race proven
Sure, sure.
drivetrain. That's the first thing I'm saying. Um, I don't know that that'll be a big issue,
Mhm.
but it's not going to be something that he's worked on before. The parts, I'm sure they'll be able to provide him with parts, but you're not going to have those parts at a bike shop if
Mhm.
something goes wrong the day of. So that would be one potential scare. Um, on their website, you can build from that frame and you can get the SRAM Apex wireless put on there. Really cool that Apex, like the below for the Shimano equivalent of Dior, even below that. I guess like the Alivio SRAM Apex is now wireless. It's like it's a little bit heavy, no power meter, but no big deal. You get a wireless drivetrain on there and you can put zip wheels on there, the 303s. But I put the Zip 303 wheels and the Apex drivetrain, which is pretty low end drivetrain when you're talking about buying a carbon gravel. It was almost $5,000.
Hmm.
And it's like it's an amazing deal when they're using the in-house stuff. It makes sense
Right,
because the big
right.
brands probably aren't giving them a discount. You can still make the bike competitive with those components, which that leads me to where like with being in a race having state drivetrain, I don't think Drew Dillman is going to be using state drivetrain.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think it's going to be the SRAM Apex or whatever he pulls off one of his other bikes. And I think it's going to be the Zip 303 wheels because he used Zip stuff on his
Okay.
other bikes, I believe.
Yeah.
Where I don't think he will, if he does those things and the bike fits him, which I think it will, like I'm sure they'll figure that out. I don't think it's going to bother him too much in the gravel races. If
Right.
I had to guess,
Right.
I think he might miss the crux in cyclocross races.
Did
If I had to
he had
guess,
a Trek.
he had a Boone,
He had a Crux as well.
but then he just bought a crux this
Okay.
year, and that
Okay.
was his race bike this year. Why do I
Oh.
know this so much?
Anyways,
Oh my
yeah, I
goodness.
do think that state bicycle has a lot to gain from Drew Dillman. So they're like big thing. They are huge in the fixie world,
Mhm.
from what I understand. I know absolutely nothing about the fixie world. But they have a big following. Um, they're like the fixie is kind of like the like hipster, like I don't know, like they are cool, but not necessarily fast. And I think what they have told Drew, from what I understand, it's like, we don't need you to be marketable. We just need you to be fast. We need to show people that this bike can go fast. And I honestly think Drew might be one of the more surprising in a good way riders this year. I think he'll
Yeah.
do pretty well. He's super strong. He seems to be, now that he's doing these longer races, one of those guys that just doesn't can like hold watts for a really, really long time. Um, so assuming the bike is decent, I think he'll give it a good showing, and that could be really good for State Bicycle if they're trying to sell this new gravel bike and get people on it.
Yeah, the little um I'm sure that bike has not been in a
Wind tunnel.
wind tunnel. I'm sure that bike doesn't have some of the same like high-end testing, but I don't know when that equates to 5 to 7 watts. I don't know. I would be curious to hear his like actual take on it after a couple races. But
Yeah.
I do think it's the right move for him. Like, yeah, especially with how things are going now. Like, I would say it's a genius move finding a brand like that that's willing to
Yeah.
sponsor you when it's and I mean, I don't know if he would say this. I don't know. I don't know. But like in a sense, like swallowing your pride of like, okay, I'm not going to be riding Specialized next year, but here's how I can still keep this as a profession because I'm sure he's worked harder than I could imagine on
Hmm.
making this a career. So props to him for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's intriguing. It'll be a fun story to watch throughout the year, I think, or listen to on his podcast. So that brings me to my question. If you're a privateer, you have had success, you're relatively marketable. And let's say you're like very marketable. What
Okay.
is your ideal setup? Like what brands are you using?
Oh
Talk
man.
me through your
Okay.
dream setup.
What brands? Are we talking like outfit and everything
Let's go
or
everything.
well
Start with the
let me
bike.
start with the bike. Gosh, I mean I have never ridden one, but I think like from what I've heard and what they look like, Factors just look really cool and really fast. The like Factor Ostro gravel, um, super wide clearance, super light, super aero. I think that thing would be sweet. Um, I would have a hard time choosing something over that. Um, I don't know enough about wheel sets. I don't know how much it matters in gravel. Um, something durable. Um, let's see, kits. I'd probably wear a speed suit. I'd be one of those guys that wears a speed suit all the time. Um, the Rule 28, heard good things about. Um, I don't know many other clothing brands to be honest with you. I don't think I would want Rafa just because it seems like every new millionaire that starts riding gets a full Rafa kit. Um, helmet, get the new um shoot, I'm blanking on the brand.
Cast.
The new cast cover. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not the helmet that covers the ears. I have too much pride for that. Um, yeah, I don't know. Factor is really the only thing I think I would say for sure. I'd like to ride that. What about you?
Feel like you took mine and I talked about no, the Factor's cool, but I'll pick something else because I have found and have been informed that I'm a little bit of a contrarian. So I would want to pick something that would stand out a little bit. And now that Factor is making it more mainstream in the gravel world, I do think it's the best looking gravel
Mhm.
bike. I probably because it just looks like a road bike. I would be between the Vetus, the Venon Evo Gravel or GR. It's their the same frame and geometry as their like all road bike. That's more of like a endurance geometry, but it is like a nice looking bike and it'd be geometry wise similar to that Factor. Really cool bike, really good price point if you're looking for a new gravel bike, the Rival with like 40 mil carbon wheels, a little bit more deep than they have to be if you look into research on gravel tires, but they look cool. Like just over like 4,300, something like that. It's a lot, but a cool bike compared to some of the other carbon bike, carbon wheel setups. But I would have to go Lauf, like just because that one is so intriguing. It would be different. I don't think anybody in that Lifetime Grand Prix is running a Lauf. Like they're just different. They're a little weird. Um, but yeah, just like a unique perspective to what a gravel bike looks like. And I think I'd kind of like being part of that. Helmets, I have so working at the Trek bike shop, I have Trek and Bontrager stuff. The uh, horseshoe crab Bontrager helmet. I hated it, and then I bought it, and I love it because it's so ridiculous looking. I would have to keep that one.
You know
Uh,
what I hate about that helmet though? I like even the looks are like fine. You can't put your sunglasses anywhere on it. Like I can't believe that there are helmets made where you like when you have to take your sunglasses off, if you put it up like here, they just fall right off.
Mine stay a little bit.
But if you're like doing a race and it's bumpy, like
Yeah,
you can't count on your. I mean, I know
yeah,
you can
that's
put it in your
true.
pocket or whatever, so it's not a
That's
huge
true.
deal. But seems like something you could work around as a helmet company, make it so your sunglasses fit.
Yeah, you're not changing my mind. I'm going with the
I
horseshoe
have that
crab
helmet as
helmet.
well.
And I don't care about the jersey. I just want it to be
Tight.
as tight as it can be. Very tight. And shoes. I like I probably like I hate myself for saying this. The specialized ones make some white ones that look
Would you
cool.
do road shoes? Would you be a road shoe,
Yeah,
road
why
pedal
not?
guy?
Yeah, sure. I'll wear white road shoe pedals. Oh, I'll do the um what were the ones you had? They
The
usually are
Mavic.
yellow. The Mavic. I'll do some
Matic's
white
not a
Mavic.
company anymore, I don't think.
I'll bring them back.
I don't know. I shouldn't be saying that. I feel like they either like yeah went under or became pretty irrelevant.
All right, well, that's my setup. Yeah, I'm going loud. And then last thing, you're in the Lifetime Grand Prix. What do you run for mountain bike? Are you going factor as well? Say you don't have to keep the same.
If I am going to ride a mountain bike, I think, and I hate that I'm saying this, the specialized, their hardtail. That's like,
The Epic or the
yeah, the Epic. That's super light. I think I like from what I hear, it's like not super technical. I don't think you'd need a full suspension. Maybe you could benefit from it, but I think having that like specialized Epic super, super light bike, I don't know if I'd, yeah. I don't know a whole lot about mountain bikes, but I don't know if I'd find a one I'd want more than that.
I'm going with a Super Cal,
Okay.
Trek Super
Okay.
Cal. I think that'd be the best one for it. Because there's still like some of the guys are still making arguments that a full suspension's faster just with
Mhm.
the bumps and chatter. Anyways, we've talked long enough about that. Last couple things. First off, is Vanderpool the best cyclist in the world?
Certainly seems like it. Um, I know Wout maybe isn't in the best shape, but to beat him how many times in a row by minutes is pretty wild. Um,
In a cyclocross race.
yeah, it's cyclocross, so it's an hour. I don't know like what time frame you use to consider like who's the strongest in the world, but
Whoa,
I
did I say
think
strongest?
what did you say best?
Best.
So you're including like bike handling and everything.
I don't know what makes the
Man,
best.
I think he's got better bike handling than a lot, but he's also crashed the last two mountain bike races he's done. I'd say yeah, he's the best in the world. I don't think anybody has a minute power better than his. And I think he's a good enough bike handler that he can hold his own in any discipline. Um, and he's obviously like he won Worlds, which is a 6 hour race. He's done well in a time trial when he's cared about it. He's cleaning up in cyclocross. He's done well in mountain biking. Um, without really having to try, he's like the most famous. So if like fame or like notoriety comes into play, I think he's got that. The only thing he hasn't done that's like left for him to show is like doing well in a stage race, which I don't think he has any interest in ever, or climbing in
Yes.
general.
Yeah, I
Like,
was gonna say he's
but I
never
don't think
had
it's
a
because
good.
he's not a good climber. I think he's just like doesn't care to try, which is frustrating. Because like Wout, who's heavier than him and maybe has like the same FTP as him, can climb with the best of them some days. And Vanderpool's just like in the gruppetto on the first mountain stage, just like not trying.
Mhm.
But I would say right now he's the best in the world. This year it seems like he's on a different level.
So I have a couple thoughts about that. Obviously it depends on how you define it. Um, I would, if I was arguing for anybody else other than Vanderpool, I would push the not doing well on a climb very hard. Because Wout van Aert was a pretty solid mountain biker, is a great cyclocross, has done well on classics. Yeah, I don't think he's won a classic technically, but he's done well on flat races. He's done well on rolling races. He's done well on mountaintop finishes. He has done pretty much everything and has had a good result in everything. You look at Pidcock. Pidcock over the last 3 years has done better than Vanderpool mountain biking. Not that Vanderpool has put the same time Pidcock has into it. I'd give Vanderpool the edge, obviously, with cyclocross, but Pidcock got a cyclocross world championship last year. Pidcock won a mountain stage of the Tour de France. Pidcock, I would argue, is just as good of a bike handler as Vanderpool. Maybe not, but I think the difference in cyclocross is just the power through the sand that he can put down that Pidcock can't. And that brings me, I guess, to the best cyclist in the world. If you take into account you're putting money on somebody in mountain biking, a mountain bike race, if Pidcock is there, I'm not confidently putting it on Vanderpool. Cyclocross, sure. Yeah, for sure the best cyclocross. Road cycling, there's somebody else I'm putting my money on, no matter what race it is.
You think?
I think it's Pogačar. Across any race. There's a few times where Vanderpool will be untouchable, but Pogačar has beaten him in classics. Pogačar has beaten him he's going to beat him in everything else. And if you take into account road cycling, Vanderpool is not the best road cyclist. I know that's not my question. Pogačar is the best road cyclist across anything. Pogačar has the chance at winning any type of race. And that is insane to me.
That is wild.
That he can beat Vanderpool on a flat. That he can beat Vanderpool on a flat. And people are saying the same thing about Wout van Aert, but Van Aert has just had a little bit of trouble the last year or so. If you weight road cycling heavy, it's got to be Pogačar in my mind. If you take into account cycling talent and ability, it's him or Pidcock. And if you take into account talent plus strength, then it's got to be Vanderpool. So I would say Vanderpool is the most talented in the world.
Do you think we're going to see a different Vanderpool this year?
Potentially.
It seems like he's, like, for the first time ever, like, determined to be great. And I hear all he's doing, he's in Mallorca or Girona or somewhere in Spain. I read that all he's doing is biking and resting, which, what was it? Like, people always say, like, your rest needs to be like sitting doing, like, I think he's taking rest seriously. So he's probably doing insane training because he's able to not focus on anything else. Which really makes you realize how depressing of a life a pro cyclist life could possibly be, especially when you get to the best. Because you literally can't do anything else. The percentages and the margins are so tight. I think the only way that he can get better than what he was is literally bike and do nothing else, which seems like he's doing that. And this might be like, he's like, I'm at the age now to really tear it up this year. I think if I were a betting person, until we get to the Grand Tours, I would bet on Vanderpool for every single race that he's in. Yeah, except for the Grand Tours. I think it'd be like, that would be my bet, and I would almost be silly not to bet for him. Bet on him in any single race. But I don't think he's going to be a winning mountain stages in the Grand Tours. But I think it'll be exciting to watch him this year.
Yeah, it definitely will.
See if he still has the same tactics as usual, where he attacks 30 times each race with like 100K to go.
I mean, that's what Pogačar does too. And yeah, they make it more exciting. But yeah. Anyways, last question for you. So we talked about Cyclist. Which form of cycling is the most exciting from an observer's standpoint? What's the most fun to watch?
I would say road cycling, hands down.
Interesting. Okay.
Which I like thought about this. I've heard people say like cyclocross and other things. I would say road cycling hands down because in almost every other type of racing, it's flat out who's the strongest and that person wins. And it like sometimes has a crazy ending, but usually doesn't.
Yeah.
Road cycling is the only one where there is like some semblance of like, okay, whoever's the strongest wins. But there's also team tactics and there's like the like unexpected that happens where a break gets away, or there's a split because of crosswinds. There's a lot more strategy that goes into it. Now, granted, the races are really, really long, but like I'm not watching a 1 hour cyclocross race. I think that's like super, super boring to me. Um, you can't even
Yeah,
see much.
I'm not either.
Yeah, I'd say road cycling because it has strategy, um, a lot of different ways the race can play out. Um, so to a certain extent, it's like an unexpected ending.
Okay, I'm gonna give you my hands down. I don't know if you were considering this, but downhill, hands down, because there's still variability there, and it's actually something that's exciting to watch. Like it ties in talent and luck and strength. And I mean, if you're a nerd, you can look into like how they're cutting knobs on the tires. You can look into how much time they put into suspension tuning, how much they set computers on the shock on the front fork. They're adjusting it as they go. I think downhill is the most exciting. There's always going to be a chance for anybody to win, and nobody has won until the last guy goes down. And yeah, I put downhill at the top of the list to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fun to watch. I don't think I could ever choose a discipline that's not like a flat out people start the race together race is my favorite. Like it's a race against the clock and it's much more exciting than a road time trial. But like it's still like you're watching and you're like having to look at a clock to see who won and you're like it is exciting. It's fun to watch. I like watch those highlights on YouTube a lot and it's pretty wild what people can do, but you're watching the same 3 minute course over and over again and comparing times. Um, it might be a close second for me.
Okay.
But I think I'd still stick to road for sure.
Well, if you think watching cyclocross for an hour is boring, then thank you so much for watching our podcast. If you got questions or comments, shoot us an email at breakingthecyclevb@gmail.com. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys again next week.
See ya.